Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel or welcome back. I have one candle here from Homeworx, and the candle in question is Snow Day, which looks like this. Beautiful wraparound with these weird silver things. And obviously, I got this from TJ Maxx for $16.99. I believe I bought it before Christmas. They had a lot of Christmas candles, a lot and a lot and a lot. Most of them were actually quite decent, if not good. And so I had to be a little bit selective, a little bit choosy about which ones I was going to bring home. This one and the white pine one, frosted white pine, made the cut and came home. Maybe another one did too. I liked the smell of this, but I was a little concerned about strength and throw just from the on cold experience. And unfortunately, yikes. This candle, so I'm not going to bury the lead. This candle kind of came in at a 3 or a 4 for most of its life in the hurricane to boot. And I think this candle needs to be at least in the 7 to 7.5 range. I actually think that it could very easily be an 8 and not be overwhelming. So this candle was just nowhere near where it needed to be in terms of its strength, in terms of its presence in my house. I picked it up at TJ Maxx because while it's a basic winter, even Christmassy kind of fragrance, there was something to it that was a little bit special. And many of Harry Slatkin's Christmas holiday outdoorsy candles are in this category. They're kind of basic, but they've got a little something to them that makes them a little bit more than basic. Yeah? So the notes on Snow Day are winter mint, sparkling bergamot, crushed fir needle, and sugared musk. This was poured in August of 2023. So it wasn't a dreaded 2022. It was a 2023. And frankly, not all of the candles poured in 2023 were a success. Many of them were like 22 kind of level performers. This is definitely one of them. Although I have had more 2023 pours that performed at least decently this year. So while it has been not an entirely successful improvement across the board, there have been signs of improvement, and there has been some marginal strides in the right direction. This was not one of them. And I think Snow Day is actually quite well loved. I even knew about it like from reputation. People talk about it. And I've only heard positive things about it. And like I said, even just smelling it cold, I brought it home. I thought it was good. And I actually do think it is a good fragrance, but at 3, it's a little hard to judge. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm not, and by the way, I burned this all the way down to the wick clips. Now, there was some sooting near the bottom because I don't know why, but like Homeworx, like when it gets toward the bottom, like I feel like it's like the magic, like Mary Poppins bag kind of like magic candle. Like toward the end, you're like, oh, surely I only have like an hour left. And then like 8 hours later, it's still burning. How can it be burning? It's gonna be on fumes at this point. And you blow it out and you're just like, okay, I'm definitely not gonna be able to light this tomorrow. It's just gonna be too low. No, it lights up again. Let's go another 8 hours. So I should have just called it. But no, I wanted it to go down until it extinguished itself. And in order to do that, there were a lot of like weird 8-hour burns of like fumes and soot, which is what created this, and it's actually making me very difficult to like get a sense of the fragrance now. I keep rubbing it. See if I can, but it was pretty weak to begin with, and now I'm just kind of getting a lot of smoke, and there shouldn't be any smoke in this candle. So part of this is going to be from remembrance. So I did not get a whole lot of mint in it. And partly that was, I mean, maybe there is mint in it. And if I was getting that candle up to the strength of like a 7, I may have been able to experience that mint and appreciate it, even if it was a nuance. I wasn't really getting any mint. Bergamot, yes. I kept being like, why is there no orange? Why is there no orange? Why do I feel like I'm smelling citrus? Because I actually think citrus is a big part of this candle. And I forgot for a minute that bergamot was citrus. I just kept looking for like orange. And I forgot, and I mentioned this a couple times with some other Homeworx candles. The bergamot note that Harry Slatkin uses is not the typical bergamot. When you see bergamot in almost any other candle, it doesn't come across as a fresh citrus. It comes across more, it's a citrus oil that is not fresh necessarily and doesn't even come across as citrus. It comes across as like a sparkling perfume note. So there's something about a bergamot oil, and we've talked about this, that is like a standard formula for perfumes and for colognes. Harry's bergamot is like a true, like, orange botanical bergamot. Yeah? It's discernibly citrus and even fresh citrus. And so usually, especially when you see like an adjective like sparkling bergamot, I mean, you just know it's going to be up in that cologne or perfume range. There are actually, Harry Slatkin's candles tend to not lean perfume or cologne. That is not that he doesn't do from time to time a kind of perfumey scent, but I would say that from what I can tell, Harry Slatkin prefers fruit and florals to perfume. And by fruit and floral, I mean like true fruit, true floral. Yeah, rather than going in a perfume way. And I actually think that that's a mark of genius. He's able to get those notes very fresh and for them to like marry well together. This is not a, I don't want to like disrespect perfumes or colognes, but I've noticed that sometimes with fragrances that are not quite skillful, sometimes, we'll put it this way, sometimes a perfume or cologne note can kind of overwhelm a fragrance and cover over a lot of errors or inadequacies in a fragrance. I'm thinking specifically of a candle that I haven't yet reviewed for you guys, but it was the Evening River Walk that I picked up from Yankee Candle a few weeks ago, and I really like the fragrance a lot. It's very similar to Bath and Body Works Cocoa Roasted Chestnuts and also Midnight Graveyard. Very similar fragrance, but whereas those two from Bath and Body Works come across in a very like fresh and bright kind of way, that Yankee Candle fragrance has aspects of them, but then kind of goes in a very cologne direction, and the cologne kind of buries some of those interesting and intriguing notes that come out more brightly in the Yankee candles. I mean, in the Bath and Body Works candles. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that a perfume or a cologne can sometimes mute the really interesting aspects of a very well-formulated fragrance, and in that sense can sometimes be a little bit cliche. And I've noticed with Harry Slatkin that he almost never goes perfume or cologne, just very rarely, and I think it's partly because he is so skillful at using simple fruit floral elements or outdoorsy or whatever else it is, and allowing them to come forward with integrity and for them to blend with integrity without necessarily having to have recourse to some sort of body care dimension or personal fragrance dimension. All right, so close parentheses. The bergamot here actually is a true citrus note, and if you were to smell it, I think you would identify it as an orange note, actually. And I do think that the crushed fir needles are there as well. The musk, yes, possibly. But I would say that the musk is kind of playing a supporting cast role and is just deepening and richening that, like, especially fir needle kind of smell. For me, the biggest element of this candle is one that is actually not listed. And so I say this with a little bit of hesitation. But my immediate impression of this was actually a very strong ozone smell right off. So for me, and maybe I was just being like psychologically led by the snowy day theme and this like park bench and, you know, like park scene. So when I smelled it originally, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful outdoor fragrance. I didn't even notice the citrus at first because I thought I was getting tree and ozone primarily. And by ozone, I mean like a fresh air kind of smell. Like I said, I'm not getting a whole lot of mint, but even a very soft mint with an ozone would create that kind of nippy cold air kind of vibe. And for me, like I said, it was that ozone note that was the most pronounced, and for me, made this tree fragrance more special than otherwise it would have been. I don't know that there's enough tree in this to really be interesting on its own, but that ozone element just puts you in a certain kind of outdoor snow space that was perfect for a candle called Snow Day. As I smelled it more, especially on cold, I thought to myself, is that some citrus in there? Is that some citrus? Which is why I kept being like, where's the orange? Why isn't the orange listed? So for me, it is a orange fir needle ozone kind of candle. For many of you, the orange and the fir needle will immediately invoke Christmas. Simply because orange, especially in conjunction with spices and with cloves, goes very like orange pomander, which is kind of a Christmas motif, a Christmas, theme, a Christmas vibe. And tree with citrus feels, I think, for many people, very holiday, very Christmassy. There was a time when children would get oranges in their Christmas stockings. And it was a treat because oranges were harder to come by. It's not like today where you can get almost any fruit from almost anywhere at almost any season. Back in the day, like oranges were not something that you would just find in your farmer's market. You wouldn't just find them in a general goods store, And they surely weren't growing them like in the Midwest or something like that. So partly it comes from the fact that citrus is very seasonal for December, for January in various parts of the world, and therefore exotic, but also in season. And so when they would come up into the northern realm in December and January, it was like an amazing special treat, like candy, Anyway, done with the history lesson. The fact that you've got the fir needles, which is kind of like a Christmas tree, and then you have orange with the Christmas tree. It's just, for many people, especially of a certain age, that is going to invoke Christmas, although there isn't any clove and there isn't any like spices in it. So for that reason, I think it kind of has a Christmassy vibe. You could very easily burn this in December. If you're not opposed to the orange and the fir needles going into January, there's no reason you couldn't do it in January. I did. It was very nice. You've got that ozone kind of outdoorsiness too. And frankly, most of us, if we have the best chance for a snow day, it's probably in January or February. So there's that too. Yeah, I think that's all I have. I think it's beautiful, and it's especially beautiful with the ozone note if I'm smelling it correctly. But at 3 out of 10, you can't. It's very hard to get any kind of impression of it. The best that I can say for it, and the highest it got was probably a 4, a 4.5. At 4.5, it was just kind of a very background atmospheric kind of presence and not a very strong one. Like I said, this candle needs to be in the 7 or 7.5 range, at least. And given how soft and how sparse, frankly, those notes are, and how pleasing they are. I mean, it's not a perfume bergamot. It's really a true juicy bergamot. Those notes could go up into the 8 realm without offending anyone, I think, or giving anyone a headache. So with Ozone, yeah, this candle needs to be 7.5, and probably it needs to be an 8. 3 or 4 is just absolutely not going to cut it. I can't recommend it at 3 or 4. It burned fine. It really did. And I think it's a very nice, if simple, candle. Tell me though, those of you who really love Snow Day, I wonder, at least I suspect, that this is one of those candles that, like, when it originally came out, it was really strong and powerful and beautiful. And now in these iterations, it's like anemic and a shadow of what it once was. I suspect that's the case. And if that is the case, then it makes sense why there are so many people that love it, even though it's like a major disappointment experiencing it now. Let me know if the earlier iterations of Snow Day, whenever that was, prior to 2022, I assume, the earlier iterations were really brilliant. And if they were, let me know that. And also let me know if you're picking up on the Ozone or what it is that you smell strongly in Snow Day. I would love that. Can you smell the mint at all? I'm not getting much mint, but at 3 or 4, it's very hard to tell what it is that you're smelling. So that's what we've got, Snow Day. Major disappointment, one that I can't recommend in this iteration. However, I can't believe that it would have such a strong following if it hadn't been beautiful and powerful and brilliant at one point. So perhaps it will be brilliant again. That's always the hope. And like I said, we are making marginal baby steps in the right direction. It's quite possible that in a year, in 2 years, things will be in a much different place, and an iteration of Snow Day may be exactly what it is that I hoped upon smelling it for the first time in TJ Maxx. I will scour the internet, and if it is available, I will link it down below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, my friends.